I started my career at AT&T and Lucent, went on to do 3 startups, 2 of which were venture-backed. The 2 venture-backed ones were both backed by Sigma, so I built a good rapport with the firm, and I wound up joining Sigma shortly thereafter, the last one that was out there. And so been with Sigma for about 3 years now, focused on the New York market and a little bit about Sigma, and then I'll get onto the lessons that I think are important for you guys to at least understand, or at least ones that I think are important and I would look for when I talk to you guys. So a bit about Sigma. Sigma is an early stage venture capital firm. We've been a long-standing history, been around since 1984, put over $2 billion worth of capital to work. We are all entrepreneurs, so everybody within Sigma has started companies and or taken companies public. We have invest predominantly in tech, no real limitations on what tech, but we love mobile, we love B2B, we love SaaS, we love enterprise software, and disruptive technologies, anything that is really changing the world. We invest predominantly on the eastern half of the United States. We have strong pockets in Atlanta, strong pockets in New York City, and strong pockets in Boston, where our headquarters are. So anyway, that's the recap. If you don't want to watch those 2 videos, you just got it in a minute and a half. A little bit about the lessons that I learned, because one of the things we do is we always take board seats whenever we join and invest in companies. And we feel like being an entrepreneur and being in the venture capital side, we're going to give some lessons. And these are sort of my 3 favorites. The first is really about being an entrepreneur. I started a few companies, and it's very, very difficult to be an army of one. Guys or gals that start companies and they're single founders, there are moments in your life where it's going to be tough. And you need somebody that sit across the table from you and kind of pick you up. And I've done that in every circumstance, and it's been a wonderful experience. I'm not saying it can't be done, but in my experience, strong teams make strong companies. And that exists at the founding level. And my partner and I would pick him up when he felt down. He would pick me up when I felt down. And if we both felt down, we had a third co-founder named Jack Daniels. And that was fantastic. So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is understand if there's a real need for your product. So I've talked to a lot of people in the marketplace, and fundamentally, there's a study that came out that said the vast majority of startups that fail are, number 1, they ran out of financing, of course. But that's a secondary effect. The primary effect is that there was no need for their product. There was no fundamental need for their product. And a lot of people have spent time thinking about the marketplace, and they come from the marketplace, and they realize, I've talked to 10 potential clients, and there is absolutely a market here. But what they fail to realize is what the priority level is. Is it the 3rd priority or the 10th priority of that customer? Are they toying around with the technology, or is it something that they really want to invest in? And so I think it's important to know that. The second is know your competition. There's a lot of companies that have gone down the path of starting companies in the same space that you guys are in that have failed. And there's littered dead bodies of companies on the path to success. There's lots of really powerful lessons in there. And so I would encourage you not to essentially go down the path blind and not know those lessons. Understand why they failed and why you're different, why you're better. What are you doing that's fundamentally unique? What exists in the environment in the marketplace that's going to allow you to succeed where they weren't able to? The third piece of news is, sort of know essentially, what your fundamental, value proposition is. More startups will die from indigestion than they will starvation. If you bite off too much, you will perish, and you'll choke to death. You won't have enough meat or wood behind a single arrow. You'll have a lot of arrows sprinkled out there. You'll constantly be chasing the shiny penny. So I think it's very, very important to focus on an individual value proposition and then broaden from there. So sequencing is a very, very important paradigm in how we evaluate companies. What is broad vision, but what's the sequence? What's the first step? What's the second step? What's the third step that you're going to take? And ultimately, scaling too soon can be death, in startup world. If you have not figured out what the value proposition that is worthwhile enough for one customer, if you're always sort of band-aiding it for one, and then you decide you're going to broaden it to 10 or 100 or 1,000, you have 100 or 1,000 band-aids out there, and that's very, very difficult. So anyway, that's all I got time for. Appreciate your time. Raju, Rishi.